13. We're having budget presentations tonight. First up is going to be administration, followed by the police department. Everybody all set with that?
Yep.
I think we probably, Sue, how do you want to handle this? You want to come up to the front?
I'll do a roll call.
We can do a roll call. We'll do a roll call. We'll miss it. I already announced the two people that weren't going to be here, so, but just one down because I thought it was tomorrow you were.
Yeah, on your agenda it says roll call next.
All right, I didn't have an agenda. Go ahead.
Good evening, Mark Lemay, Board of Selectmen's rep.
Sammy Tremley.
Lisa Dukes,
Joe Spurl.
Shea Senate.
Lee Sperry.
Richard Fletcher.
Diane McCarthy, School Board Rep.
Elizabeth DeBrule,
Brian Lewis.
Ruth Gage,
Guy Karen.
Brian Fournier.
Pete Georgette. Sue, you might as well just sit right up here then, or?
I'll bring my computer then, if I
Or would it be more advantageous to have Lee sit up here and you do it from there, so everybody, I don't think it makes a difference.
Yeah, move Lee.
I don't know if she's coming or not. I didn't hear it.
I get the, you get
Sit
the
next to
boot.
the big dog?
Get the boot, yeah. I was trying to avoid it.
You get the boot, Lee.
Yeah, boot Lee.
Can't threaten me with a good time.
And if Joanne shows up, you'll get the boot again.
So what happens when you're late?
Well, she's going to pass out.
Okay, good.
What I'd like to start with the budget assumptions for the town budget, which applies to all departments. One sheet, so I'll be brief before I get into the admin budget. I was told they can't hear me. The Board of Selectmen started the budget process with presentations from department heads, much like you're starting tonight. But they started back in September, and during the month of September, they heard all their budget presentations. October, they spent that month on deliberating on the budget. The selectmen reduced the proposed operating article by $3,297,609. The operating budget is comprised of three funds on the town side: the general fund, the sewer fund, and the EMS special revenue fund. Since the general fund is the only fund which impacts the tax rate, it's typically the focus of the selectmen and the budget committee. The selectmen's 2014 operating budget represents an increase of $889,503 over the previous year. And the selectmen have voted to use $650,000 from unassigned fund balance at tax rate setting time to offset most of that increase. There are many lines that have increased and decreased as you look through the budget. However, the three largest increases deserve some attention. CIP has increased $551,324 to address the deferred replacement of vehicles and equipment. Benefits have increased $237,336 due to a 14.4% increase in health insurance benefits. And retirement lines increased $113,387 due to the need to budget for 12 months at the July 1st, 2013 rates. At this time, the Selectmen's total budget, including special and separate articles, represents an increase of 20 cents on the town's tax rate. This year's is $9.72, and it would go to $9.92. I'd like to go through the assumptions made in the Selectmen's budget. They have changed since we did our department head assumptions because we've gotten a lot of the rates are fixed now. Wage adjustments. The Teamsters collective bargaining agreement that was voted in last year has a performance pay of 3% budgeted in this budget for 2014. Non-union, there are no steps budgeted, and they are budgeting 2% for performance pay of anywhere between 1% and 3%. And that's for a half year because those increases come about on July 1st. Insurances, health and dental insurance. Health insurance, as I said earlier, it was a 14.4% increase. We're exploring some other options, some other plans, as well as different levels of contributions from employees. That's in the works, so that's why you'll find through your pink pages, wherever there's a benefits line, it's highlighted in pink, because that's a work in progress. But what you have in your budget is worst-case scenario, that represents a 14.4% increase. If changes are made, and we're negotiating 3 collective bargaining agreements right now, that would be reflected in those special articles. If changes are made, it would be reflected in non-union in this budget.
Who are the 3 CBAs?
The 3 CBAs are police, the dispatchers and clerks, and fire.
Thanks.
Dental insurance, the rates continue to be the same. And we also are getting a contribution holiday, which you've heard before in the budget. And we anticipate our share of that would stay. We've budgeted as revenue is about $50,000. Disability and life insurance, short-term and life insurance rates decreased slightly, and long-term disability stayed the same. Unemployment compensation insurance decreased. The workers' comp rates, due to the carriers' reorganization, the first half of, they're changing their year to July 1st. So the first half of 2014 is calculated on the old classification rates, the old mod rate, which is 0.44, which is excellent, and also the 20% trim discount, which they were using when they were all one group. But now that they've been forced to reorganize, they can't offer that multi-line discount in insurances anymore. So we're going to be losing that 20% trim discount in the second half of the year.
When you say when they were forced to reorganize, you're talking about LGC?
Yes.
Yeah.
So now there's no more LGC, it's NHMA, which is the Municipal Advocacy Group, legal advice, and then there's health trusts, and there's property liability trust.
Now it's done because of a lawsuit, am I right?
Yes, and the appeal is pending in Supreme Court. I heard it's supposed to be heard in November sometime, but we'll see where that takes us.
And if that changes, would everything change again?
Not right away, I'm sure. Well, what they've got to stay on the $17 million they're supposed to pay out to municipalities right now. So that's still on the table. Even though they've been giving us contribution holidays, they've been based on year-end surplus from 2011 and 2012. And that's what we're getting next year. So we're waiting to hear about that. However, even on the property liability, so they've changed those rates. The rates actually went down, but it won't appear to you to be a reduction in the budget, because this year we took the contribution holiday to offset what we budgeted. Okay, and the contribution holiday was larger than the decrease we're going to realize next year in rates.
Okay, you just confused the
Yeah.
heck out of me. I don't
Okay.
understand what you just said.
We got a contribution holiday, and they told us in time so we could budget our property liability insurance lines in each department by taking that reduction, taking it as a credit. So they gave it to us as a credit for 2013, so we budgeted less.
Okay.
Next year, the rates are going down, but not as much as the value of that contribution holiday, and we're not getting a contribution holiday from the property liability trust next year.
Now, sitting from where I'm sitting, okay, I want to be able to look at one year to the next, and when you do it that way, it distorts your numbers.
We can get you the detail.
But you understand what I'm saying?
I
That-
do,
that
I know.
distorts
It's
the
been a
numbers,
nightmare to deal with these contribution holidays.
you know? And you can't just take the contribution holiday as a revenue,
We
attach it to the general fund?
We are doing that on the health insurance because the whole health insurance contribution holiday is not ours. Some of it belongs to the employees and the retirees who take insurance. So they get it, part of it, whatever percentage. Say the contribution holiday was 2% of their surplus. So 2% of what anyone paid is what they get back. So the lion's share stays with the town. But the retirees who paid 100% of their insurance will get their share. And the employees, they paid whatever they paid. If they paid 10%, they
And
get their
and
share.
that's the town's responsibility to reimburse those employees?
Yes.
Okay. You happy with that answer, guy? Okay.
Utilities, electricity. The town has signed a contract with Integris, who is an energy provider, and our electricity rate is .07730 kilowatt hours, and we are hopeful that the savings will offset any increased charges in transmission. As we know, public service goes before the PUC twice a year for their energy rate increases. So, for the most part, these lines are level funded unless the department had determined that the current budget was insufficient. Heating oil, the contracted rate is $3.195 per gallon for this upcoming heating season. And then we use a 3-year average, unless adjustments were made due to changes in heating systems in certain departments. Propane is contracted at 1.51 per gallon for the upcoming heating season, and again, the 3-year average was used unless adjustments were made. I think the fire department and the chief will probably tell you that they had converted from one to the other, I forget which one, so there was an adjustment made
Yes, they went
between
from oil to,
propane and heating oil.
yes, oil to propane.
Diesel, the contracted rate is $3.24 a gallon, and gasoline, the contracted rate is $2.96 a gallon. New Hampshire retirement rate, as I mentioned before, the rates changed on 7/1/13. Those are still in effect for all of 2014, but now we'll be budgeting for a full year, so you'll see that results in an increase. Increase in positions and hours. What has survived the selectmen's budget process is that, correction here, I thought I updated all this. The interns are gone, the 2 engineering interns. And the full-time engineering technician is now a 29-hour-a-week position for 9 months.
This is to augment the 2 we already have there, right?
This is for stormwater. In anticipation of the MS4 permit and all the reporting and data collection requirements through the EPA, this position is being put in place. Finance and tax, we have budgeted an additional 2 hours a week for the first 6 months for hourly employees to accommodate the implementation of the finance software. Budget line transfers. Due to 2 changes, we are able to restructure how we do business here. First change, the new finance software will allow us to bill labor directly to the appropriate fund and divisions within the town budget. Also, the law has changed, and governing bodies do not need to vote at a weekly meeting on the manifest. Now, just a simple majority of signatures, non-concurrently, is sufficient. So the sewer commissioners will sign off weekly on the sewer manifest. This allows us, and Peter, you're probably happy to hear this, because over the years you've always called this double budgeting. Sewer is not budgeted in like Alan's position is not budgeted in admin anymore. We will be processing payroll directly to them, and the sewer commissioners will be signing off weekly. And so it really impacts admin and DPW lines, because DPW does a lot of the sewer work. So you'll hear from Carl on that in each of his divisions. But this will also reduce, because what we used to do is we budget for them in the general fund and then budget for a revenue offset for whatever expenses they had. So the revenue budget from sewer has gone down. CIP and special articles. Selectmen have reduced CIP to the road plan at $1 million, and then the CIP category, machine, equipment, and vehicles, to $716,606. Selectmen have chosen to finance one-time CIP projects with unassigned fund balance, and they will appear as special or separate articles with offsetting revenue. These projects include the Pleasant Street Bridge repairs, the detention pond reconstruction, the town hall ADA elevator, library painting and repair, and the police department server virtualization. Other special articles, special or separate, they haven't been determined yet. Well, actually, fire station bond will be a special article by definition. There's also the Goffstown Main Street program, Christmas House, the Fire Capital Reserve Fund, that is a special. Fire SCBA replacements, that's going to be that will be contingent on a 90% grant and 10% use of fund. 10% will be by fund balance. As said earlier, we are negotiating 3 collective bargaining agreements: police, dispatches, clerks, and fire. So right now we just have placeholders in there at $1. And then the selectmen are entertaining a request from a member of the public for message boards. And there's a dollar placeholder in that right now.
Okay, we're hitting the fund balance again in two different areas.
Yes,
Okay. How much was put into the fund balance this year?
the fund balance at year end, at the end of 2012, was 5.6 million. We used 800-something thousand at town meeting, which means there's 4.8 in there now. And we will still be at that 8% level, which is the target for the selectmen. We know that there will be at least 182,000 in surplus this year because we received a contribution holiday this year. Any questions on the overview?
Any questions? Everybody understand what was, go ahead, Elizabeth.
For the Teamsters CBA,
Yes.
why is this budgeted at 3%?
When we voted on it at town meeting, we said that the performance pay would be between 1% and 3%, and the board at that time decided to budget 3%. In the event that everyone got a 3%, but the likelihood of that happening is,
But like if the non, I mean, look at the non-union.
and that's the decision of this board, to budget for 2% for non-union
Okay.
boards.
Okay, I don't remember signing off, well, I mean, maybe we don't sign off on that, but voting on the CBA, I don't believe we've signed off on an automatic 3%.
It's not automatic. It's budgeted at 3%, and that went into the calculation, but it's not an automatic. It's performance-based.
This is the way your fund balance grows, and then next year they can use that extra dollars that they've saved up for that 3% to fund something else.
Okay.
Guy, go ahead.
That was not the intent.
So, if my understanding is correct, the non-union 2% budget for performance pay of 1 to 3 is designed to ensure that merit increases are really based on merit, and that not everyone just gets a blanket 3%.
Right.
But that's not done with the
That was,
Teamsters.
well, that was the rationale this year, going forward for next year.
Right. And why would that not be the same rationale with the Teamsters CBA?
At
I mean,
that
it's easy
time-
for a department head to say, I'm gonna maintain status quo and keep everybody happy and give everybody a 3% increase.
I don't think that's gonna happen, because they're working on their evaluation forms.
So we don't know yet how this first year of this stuff's gonna shake out? Or have merit increases
Doesn't-
already been doled out?
No, it starts next year.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, this year was just a cost of living increase in the Teamsters contract. Next year starts performance pay.
On the non-union personnel, for years, we've been talking about a review system. Have the selectmen now put a review system in place for department heads and non-union personnel?
That's a work in progress currently at this
Okay,
time.
that's been 5 years. I know it's been a work in progress. When does a work in progress finally get done? It's not that hard to do.
We are,
They've given the, it's a two-part process, it's a
Yes.
self-evaluation, and that's in the hands of department heads. They do the self-evaluation, then bring it in with them to the board.
So
and
the
board-
process is in, there is a process now
Oh,
to do
there's
an
a form,
evaluation.
yes.
That was my question.
Yes, there is a form, there's an evaluation form that was developed, and it's in the hands of the department heads, and they hope, now that they've concluded on their budget, to go forward with that.
Good. Richard?
So do you have any idea or have any figures of what is left over in, the road plan? You know, like they didn't finish everything because they didn't have time, so there's money left over in that account for next year. Like somewhere along the line when I was listening to the selectmen's meeting, I heard a figure like $900,000 because they haven't finished everything.
Well, a road is a 2-year process, and the final wear coat goes down the second year, so we always retain that amount.
Right.
For
That's
that.
what it is. So
I can look up the
there's an
history of
amount
that
in
for you.
there for that purpose, which will be used next year.
Mhm.
And I got the impression that they didn't really have the time to do other work on the roads, so that's being carried over.
I can get those figures for you. Are you asking what was left over at the end of last year?
Yeah,
Dick?
what, they'll encumber.
Or what they're gonna encumber this
Yeah.
year? Oh, okay.
If there's an if there's money left over after their encumbrance, where does that go? General fund?
Yes.
Well,
If it's not
It doesn't
encumbered.
go to the general fund, it just stays there for use next year.
Well, if it's, he said if it's not encumbered, right?
No, it's not.
It's encumbered and not used.
Yeah,
Oh,
okay.
encumbered and not used.
Okay, say Patterson Road, they encumber $500,000 to finish it next year. They only spend $450. Where does the other 50 go?
If that happened, and I don't know if it would.
No, I'm just-
It would be liquidated and the remainder would go to the general fund.
If it was finished and they didn't
Right.
want to carry it over to something else, yeah.
Well, they can't
Well,
carry
I
it
don't
over. That's
think-
what I'm asking.
I think it becomes a pool of money to finish roads or do roads that they
It
haven't
depends
done
on the
this year.
right, it depends on the contract, you're
Yeah.
probably both right.
Yeah.
It depends on the contract, if the contract was for multiple roads and not just for one, and one went over and one went under and it's used up, then it's used up.
Okay, Pleasant Street Bridge and Sidewalk. Okay, let's just say there's money left over from that project when they get done. That money goes to the general fund because it was earmarked for a special project.
Correct, that's a special article, and well, actually, you're using fund balance, so whatever you don't use stays in fund balance.
But I'm just saying, if that was a special article to raise revenues, those monies left over on this, because it's a special article, would go back to the general fund.
Correct.
You can't just spend it.
Yeah, it
Correct.
has to go back to the general fund.
Correct.
Ma-
You
Brian,
can
go ahead.
add money to a special article through your operating budget if you happen to have, say you were short on that, you could add money from your budget, but you can't use that money in the special article for another purpose.
Ron?
You might not even have the answer for this, but I went through this in CIP. Why would we do stuff with this Pleasant Street Bridge? I understand, but why would we do that the year after we already did road construction? I mean, this makes no sense to me.
That would be a better question for Carl when
he
he's
comes
presenting
in.
his budget.
That's what they were talking about, that they didn't have time, in other words, to go to Addison Road. After they got to that point, they hadn't.
I know, but it was on on CIP for this coming year, not last year. And it's $80,000. It's like, it makes no sense.
So they encumber it.
No, they didn't encumber it.
No, they
Finish the
didn't.
bridge, to finish
They
the
had it on the next year. It's like,
It's in the
it's like putting a cart
2014
in front.
budget.
It's like putting a cart in front of the horse. It doesn't make any sense.
That's something.
Why would you tear a bridge up and then let's go back and,
We'll check with Carl on that.
Yeah.
That's a good question. Okay,
It may be because that was a water project, what they did for the water precinct, and we're getting revenue from the water precinct for that piece. I don't know, you'd have to ask Carl.
we'll have Carl, we can ask Carl.
finance the water department?
I have another question.
Go ahead.
Back in the spring, in the Board of Selectmen summaries that we get, there was talk every once in a while about some sort of a committee to look into the total compensation for town employees, the total package. And then I saw it referenced a few times, and then I didn't see it referenced again. What is the status of that?
We put together material for the board to review, and they've reviewed the data and the salaries and compared to other towns
Towns and communities around.
that are similar in size.
That's public information. I'm sure if you wanted, you could get it.
Okay, but the board isn't planning to take any action.
Board has
Is that
not
what I'm-
taken any action at this time.
As of yet, no.
Okay. Is the employee contribution levels on the health insurance currently the same as it was last year?
In this budget?
Yeah.
Yes, and those are the pink highlighted lines that we're working on. We have a health trust rep coming in next week to explain other plans that would not be considered Cadillac plans in 2018. And we're introducing probably some new plans.
Okay.
We have to weigh all of this with the Affordable Care Act and the plans that we
Right.
offer and the coverage and the affordability and the,
I'm a little confused in what you just said. When we're in negotiations right now with a group,
yes, ma'am.
groups, why wouldn't that be a subject?
It is.
It is, okay. So.
I'm not at liberty to
I
discuss
understand- I
the
understand what-
negotiations.
But the non-union employees could be adjusted at this point.
Yes, and that's why it's highlighted in pink. Any adjustment to those pink lines would be for non-union only. Because we have to budget status quo in case the collective bargaining agreements, for some reason, don't pass.
But that wouldn't affect non-union, whether it was
Yeah.
a collective bargaining agreement or not.
Right, and that's why we got our rates very late this year, as you know.
Yeah.
And so they're giving us rates and other plans also, and when we got the rates, it was sticker shock. So that's why we're looking at other plans and exploring that, and trying to get buy-in from everyone. So we're having a rep come in from the health trust to explain them next week.
One more question on that for me is when it goes up to the town, does it go up to the employee also?
Yes, because there's cost sharing.
So if the town's employees paying 5%, their 5% is now larger, right?
Yes.
Okay.
We're also looking at our formula and how we calculate their share. So we're looking at the whole health insurance benefit, the formulas and the plans.
I know a lot of companies that people are taking a hit on the health insurance and the employees take the hit too at the same
Yeah.
time, so.
Yeah, we all share in that. It's a percentage base.
I also have a question about the retirement lines.
Go ahead.
Can you just explain the increase to me a little bit? I mean, I thought we took the hit on the retirement increase last year. Is this something
Every
different?
biennium, the New Hampshire Retirement Board sets rates for retirement. The rates that were set last year were for July 1st, 2013, so you experienced half of that new rate last year. This year you have the same rate, but it's for 12 months.
Okay. Would it be easier, it's kind of a theoretical question, but would it be easier to budget, have a fiscal year from July to July?
That's an
talked
interesting
about that
question
before.
that the selectmen have raised,
Board
and
of
they'll be
Selectmen,
analyzing that.
We have raised that question, and we're getting some information, and it's something that is on the table right now with us.
Okay. 'Cause, I mean, it seems like more and more things are we're budgeting half year for this and then a different rate for the second half, and it just seems a little confusing. Okay.
It also helps because the school is stuck on that.
Right.
that same-
So then we would have them both on the same cycle.
And if you do that, we would have to budget for 18 months, obviously, to,
Right.
1 year you would have 18 months.
well, for
Right.
the initial one being 18-month
So-
budget.
So Sue, on assessment, that has a direct bearing on the rate in the end. When the assessor goes around and assesses buildings, if it goes up, the buildings go up, then you get more revenue. And if the buildings go down, you have to raise more revenue.
The rate does fluctuate based on assessments, but you still have to raise whatever you vote on at town meeting.
Right. But, so where do we stand on assessment in the town of Goffstown? Are they done the cycle and are they gonna start again, or?
Yes, every 5
And
years
so
we're
we could
required.
We could expect property assessments to go up a little because of property values going up.
Every 5 years. We just did one this year.
So we wouldn't
Or
have
you're
to
seeing the
worry,
effective one this year.
so we wouldn't have to worry for 5 years?
We do a list and measure every 5 years where they
Yeah.
come out and they,
Yeah.
if you let them in their home, they go into your home. If they don't, they just
Right.
assess it based on what they see.
Who controls that figure of what it's worth? I mean, what the value is, because you can say to a bank, how much is this house worth? And they'll give you one figure. You can say to the state, how much is this worth? They'll give you another figure. And you can say to an assessor, in Goffstown, it's this rate, and they're all different.
And they've struggled with this at the state level, Dick, for, as you know, for some time, and that's why they have an assessing standards board. Our assessor was a member of that assessors standing board before he even came here, and so he's well aware of the Department of Revenue Administration requirements as it comes to, as it pertains to assessing. And I know there's a goal to standardize, but
Right.
I'm not sure how much standardization you can get.
Dick just brought
So
up,
that has a direct effect on everything we do here in the end.
Dick just brought this up, but I was gonna ask anyway. Was the inventory overestimated in the last year?
Was the town value, was it overestimated? Let's put it this way, if we didn't have a reval, it was not. There was enough new building to support the increase that we assumed. However, because values have dropped,
We had-
overall, the town went down just under 0.5%, I believe, in valuation.
Well, we had anticipated when we figured the revenues for the budget at a different rate than it actually came in, and that's what increased the
Right.
taxes. That's,
The tax rate.
The tax
Not
rate.
the out-of-pocket, the tax
Well,
rate.
it's still-
Well, the out-of-pocket went up because of the vote at town meeting.
yeah.
Yeah.
But the actual inventory value went down.
It did.
Now, you've assumed in this budget a 0.5% increase.
Right. And if we didn't have a reval this year, we would have met our assumption this year. But because of the reval, I mean, we had enough new construction to support a 0.5% increase. And I believe that's what we had assumed for this year.
Does everybody understand what we're talking about, the inventory? Shay, you understand what I mean? All right, go ahead. Where are we headed? Any more questions?
Yeah, sorry.
What are you sorry about? That's
I have
what
a
we're here
couple more.
for.
I know. Brian just gets mad at me.
It's more fun now.
Without casting aspersions on any town employee, I do not mean this personal at all. But I would be interested in hearing the justification for a 2% pay increase when they received 3.25 last year, 3.25 the year before, I believe, or 3. The year before that, it was either 3 or 2.
I think the past 3 years, not including this year was 3%.
Yeah.
And it was 3.25 the 3 years prior to that.
Okay. That's far more than inflation, far more than annual rate of growth, far more than people in the private sector are seeing. I would be interested in hearing that either yours or the board's rationalization for another 2% increase this year.
Here he is right here. Ask him. That's his job.
That's what I'm saying. I looked at both of them. I said one or the other.
That's Mark's job to
We
defend
had a
that.
debate. I wanted to go with 1%. I was outruled, outvoted to go to the 2%. I mean, we discussed it on the board. I mean, what more can I say? I wanted something, it didn't go, and the rest of the board got what they wanted.
Well, can you give me some of their reasons?
Excuse me, just a minute, can I interrupt?
Yeah,
Just with your
sure.
permission real quick? Didn't you vote to support the town budget that you're representing?
I did.
Okay, thanks. I just
did.
wanted to make sure that was on the record.
I did,
Okay.
but when it came to certain parts of this, I'm not in favor of everything here, and I mean, I have to vote it, and it is what it is, but, I mean, we just, why?
I believe the discussion revolved around, this will be the first year moving to performance pay, and if you only had 1%, how much, there's no range there for performance pay.
We haven't, I mean, we have standards, but yet we haven't seen them efficiently at work yet, so we're kind of going on the lighter side, as I'll say it, right, Sue? We're at the, you know, we set that as a high point, but yet we're not going to that. I don't believe we're gonna go to that high point, to be honest with you. 3%, it'll be 1 or 2%.
You
Okay.
understand that this will be the first year of performance?
Yeah, I
They
do.
need the range to work with, so they felt that they budgeted 2% and worked within that. So no one will get more than a 3% increase. But they needed
Okay.
to budget a certain amount. They felt if they budgeted 1% and still allowed the same range that they're allowing for Teamsters, that
And no one will
It
get
may
less
not be
than a
that.
1% the way you've set up.
that's how the Teamsters is set up. I'm not sure.
Oh, I'm looking at the non-union, no steps budgeted, 2% budgeted performance pay of 1 to 3%.
Yeah, and I put
It's a
that down because
guarantee
that's.
of 1 to 3%.
The selectmen really didn't have that discussion. I kind of put that as a leftover from the Teamsters. So it could be 0 to 3%.
I think the figure that they used was a figure of 2%, right?
Yes.
And the 2% could give somebody 3 if somebody won.
Right.
So the average, it came out to
That
2.
wasn't my question. My question was a guaranteed of 1, according to what you just said too. They're gonna get a 1,
They
2, or
could give
3.
somebody 0.
Okay, that's what,
The board hasn't had that discussion, Peter.
okay.
Did the idea come up of freezing wages and introducing merit-based pay next year?
No, that did not come up.
Okay. So the reason was entirely based on wanting to have a range to introduce merit-based pay?
Performance-based pay, yes.
Okay.
Go ahead, Brian.
Who's evaluating this?
Department heads.
Who evaluates the department heads?
The selectmen.
That's what we just said earlier. They're doing a self-evaluation right now,
So the department
The
heads are
department-
self-evaluating themselves?
which is a normal thing to do. They do a self-evaluation and then they turn it in and then they,
They come in front of the Board of Selectmen and
yeah, and they sit there and talk about it and they say, no, that's not true. Or, yeah, you did that, you know?
Gotcha.
So that's how, I mean, I do the same thing in my job. That's what I have to do. But, you know, they put down their goals,
I'd love
I'm
to read
sure.
one of your self-evals.
Oh, yeah, you'd like it. So, you understand now?
Yeah, whatever.
Well, it's a trickle-down effect. I mean, selectmen do the department heads to them, down, down, down. Now, I don't know how far, like somebody like the chief, how far down, chief, just out of curiosity, would you do a review on?
I do, in my department, I do 3 active personnel that I do direct evaluations on. However, I have input, review, and oversight on every employee's evaluation.
But you, like a lieutenant may do a sergeant, and a sergeant may, okay,
But I would still review those as
sure. Thank you. Can I help you explain a little bit?
It does, but like, I guess what my curiosity is like, Sue and yourself and and the chief of fire, it's the selectmen that are reviewing them, or are they reviewing themselves?
No,
No, they do a self-review, and then they turn it into the selectmen. At least the way I do it, I speak my accomplishments of the year, maybe I
Yeah.
added education or things like that.
Okay.
My self-evaluation of what I think my performance is on the job, they turn it into the selectmen, and the selectmen review it and go over it and
see if they agree with that.
agree or disagree.
And also develop goals for the next year.
Right.
Okay, fair enough. I guess I was under the impression, like, guess I deserve 3% this year. I'm asking.
There's, that's not on the,
And it may be,
it's more of a narrative of
Okay, fair enough.
self-evaluation.
there may be scores involved too. There's all different ways of doing it. I've participated in a few of
so.
those.
Scale.
So I also don't remember when we talked about the CBA for the Teamsters. I mean, I remember we talked about the merit increases and the range a little bit, and Scott said a few times something about you budgeted 3%, but we'll deal with that later, which I took to mean what the number that was budgeted would be sorted out later. Not that we are now, so are we locked in for the 3 years of this agreement that it will always be budgeted at 3%?
That's how it was calculated and budgeted in the collective bargaining agreement article this year.
Okay.
And that's what I presented when I presented to the budget committee.
Yeah, I'm not sure I understood that was part of what we were contracting to, or agreeing to. Okay.
And any
That
part,
doesn't mean it's automatic, though. I just want to clarify that. That
Well, it
doesn't mean
sounds, to me, it sounds, I mean,
It's
I kind
budgeted,
of
but-
agree with Guy. I mean, if you've got 3% budgeted, why wouldn't you do it unless you really wanted to make an
performance-based.
example?
Because it's performance-based. And it's going, and evaluations can be different for all the employees. They're not going to be the same.
and any excess in those accounts goes to,
General fund.
which they're gonna spend on something else the following year. I didn't
Well,
say
let's get
out
into
loud,
that.
did I?
Let's get into that one then, Peter. My impression in the discussion last year was that this whole using the what's it called?
Unassigned fund.
Thank you. Unassigned fund balance was sort of a one-time deal.
That's the way I understood it too.
That's
but-
the way it was presented.
That we had to bring that balance down because it had gotten too high. There was some discussion about why it didn't go straight to tax relief. And that it seemed to be, I seem to remember people saying this was going to help us get over a little bit of the CIP hump. So I throw this open again. Was there a discussion now at the board, the Board of Selectmen, about whether this money should go to straight tax relief?
We had a discussion, and where it ended up is where it ended up, and that was it.
My problem with this, and I know I've said it before, I go to Walmart and I overpay for something, and I go back to Walmart and say, you overcharged me, which is what you've done on the taxes, because we've got extra money, right? We didn't spend all the money we allocated. So I said, Mr. Walmart, I want my money back. They said, oh, I'll give it back to you, but you have to buy this in order to get it.
Store credit.
That's all. And that's not right. Okay? I want my money back so I can pay my credit card bill, my taxes. I want my money back so you can make me buy something else. So I can tell you right now, any of that stuff I'm voting no on this year. I'm not going to do that this year. Tell you right up front. Absolutely not. I want my money back. And I'm not sure a special article couldn't be written up, or a petitioned article couldn't be written up directing that. It'd be something to check into.
Our auditor has praised us for budgeting within 1% of appropriations and 1% of revenue.
That's great, but there's not, still doesn't give you,
And-
doesn't give
and
anybody the
he's
right
the
to
one-
spend my money, overcharge me and spend my
And they
money.
also suggest using that money to bring it down to the 8% level, to use it on one-time type purchases, not
But
to fund
Sue,
your
our
operating budget,
taxes took enormous jump this year.
It's 4 or 5%, wasn't it?
depending on what your valuation is.
Okay, if you would have taken that money, you could have used it to offset some of that tax increase. That's my point. Okay, we're in a budgeting situation right here. I'm getting calls from ex-town employees and ex-people who have served on this board and other boards at my home. I'm in Las Vegas. I get a call. I just got my tax bill. What's going on?
Yeah, but Pete, just remember, she's not responsible.
I
for that.
understand that, but, I'm speaking to him as much as I'm speaking to her, okay? So, but as we go on, that's what I'm looking at. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Okay.
What's
We
next?
done with the highlights, the overview?
Elizabeth, you got anything else?
No, I'm done for now.
Okay, we'll get to the town hall budget.
Oh, boy.
I have one tiny short question. The hourly increase for the finance tax people, 2 hours a week
For 6 months.
for 6 months, how many employees are we talking about?
4. 1 in tax and 3 in finance.
What'd you just ask?
For the 2 hour per week increase for 6 months for
Yeah.
the finance and tax people, I want to know how many employees it affected. And the answer's
The
4.
cost is that's the 10,636, right?
Get that.
It's on your budget. It says regular part-time wages.
Oh, no, part-time wages isn't,
What's that one for? That's something new.
in the new finance software, we have broken out part-timers from regular full-time employees. Also will help us when we are reviewing the hours under the Affordable Care Act because as you know, the employer penalties have been delayed 1 year. So we have the year of 2014 to review, and any part-time employees that go over 30 hours a week, then in 2015, we will have to offer them insurance, or we will have to restructure
So in the first 3 lines.
of my budget.
Yes. Page 9.
Yes.
The first 3 lines. Now, am I to assume then that the 280,000 for 2013 included those other 2 lines?
Okay. Can I do my presentation?
Go ahead.
Well, I'll
Go right
answer-
ahead. Go right ahead. I'm
Hopefully,
sorry.
it will answer all those questions for you.
I mean, I already went through this, question marked all this stuff. That's all.
Okay. Under the regular wage line, you have the building supervisor. Last year, he was budgeted 25% in the building inspection, 25% in fire, 25% in police, and 25% DPW. He is now 100% in admin, okay? So that's one position. The secretary, executive secretary's position has changed from a 40-hour week to a 35-hour week position, because now we are contracting minute taking. All right? So that's a second full-time position in there. The town administrator and the assistant town administrator is still in there. The sewer administrative assistant is no longer in there, as stated in the overview. Last year, the part-time person, which is our custodian, was in the regular wage line. In the new Munis software, the way this is set up, the part in the box is the new Munis software codes, and the one on the left is your reference to what it was. So the part-timer was in regular wages last year. Now we've got a regular wage full-time and a regular wage part-time. So that's the custodian who works here, and she also works at Public Works, but you'll see her portion there in their budget. So those are the positions that are in there. Elected officials,
Just one thing.
Yep.
If I ask, or we ask for the breakdown of the wages, that'll show in that, right?
yes.
Okay.
Would you like it organized by office and division?
Well, I think that's the way we've done it before, right? That they had
Yeah, we
so
can do
many
that.
dollars here and so many dollars there, so you can look at it. 'Cause
Yeah.
the way you're talking now, it's kind of difficult to follow along.
Well, the tricky part of since you transitioned to the new software is that a lot of this stuff, when it moved over, we don't see the previous 2 years.
Exactly.
So it makes it a little more difficult for us, to gauge the increases or decreases.
Now, the elected official line, that is a transfer from elections. The selectmen's stipends, for some reason in 2000, when we went to that software, were put under elections and didn't belong in elections. They belong under the executive branch. And so those stipends have been transferred here. So that's why you'll see elections has gone down and admin's gone up so much, because we've transferred that here. So you have the old account number way over to the left. Now, the selectmen moved, you'll see a new line in the Munis software under longevity pay. You see merit pay. What they did is they took all the merit pay that was in each of the 6 departments and put it all in one place.
So the 2% equals the 21,000?
No. That's merit pay that's always been in, each department had a few $1,000s in it for
Something different.
things like, people earned incentives or degrees and they weren't budgeted for, they were there, or if you were promoted from Secretary 1 to Secretary 2, or Bookkeeper 1 to Bookkeeper 2. That's where that merit, it was for promotions and incentives.
So there's no way to track, we don't have any way at the budget committee to say, okay, out of that 2% they had budgeted for the merit pay, this much of it was used. There's no line there for, we can look at that.
That would be in your regular wage lines.
That's
So
what I'm
if the
saying. There's
regular
no-
wage lines
there's
are
no one
underspent.
line. There's no line that we can look and say,
Oh, a performance pay bucket?
yeah.
No, but that's an interesting idea, Peter.
I mean, if you,
It's in the regular wage line right now.
okay. I think the school does it that way. Don't they, Diane? You guys have a
Probably for your
a
administrative
merit
staff.
bucket. You have a merit bucket that's, then the monies come out of that bucket, that line.
Yeah.
Yeah, salary pool, I think that's what, yeah. That's the way they do it. That's why I asked it.
For your, is that for your administrative staff? Yes. Your contracted people would be in your contract, right?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
okay. So you're not affiliated would be in that bucket?
Right.
Okay. All right, do you want me to go through every line?
I don't,
I have a question, though.
so I just go through if somebody's got questions on it. like-
Okay.
Like I went through it and made, I mean, there's no reason if he's budgeted 18, it was, last year it was 18, it's 18 again. I mean, there's no,
Yeah, the gray area that's highlighted further down, the Grassmere facility expense, we broke that out so we could see our actual cost for each one of those
So
in Grassmere.
how can we get the 2012 and 2013 numbers for heating oil and water and electricity for those particular lines?
Well, it was 8,400 was the budget,
Oh,
okay. For all those gray areas in the previous years. And in 2012, we spent 95.51. This year, we're at 59.28. But we
Okay,
don't
so-
have the breakout.
you don't have the breakup of those are the totals for all of those lines in the gray area. I see.
So you'd have to take the gray area,
Oh.
total up and compare it to the,
What is the total?
yep.
You didn't happen to know off the top of your head, Sue, what the total is?
I am gonna
think I-
add it right up for you.
Probably, you got a keypad, I don't.
I got 8401.
That sounds about right, it's about the same.
Yeah.
So minute takers,
Yes,
45350, it's gone way up from what it had been for 2 years now.
yes.
Is that,
And that's
because-
basically a transfer, because you took 5
Okay,
hours away
okay,
from the
yeah.
executive secretary,
yeah,
and this is actually a little less.
yeah.
And that's minute takers now for Selectmen and Economic Development Council. Before it was just for Economic Development Council.
So real quick about the salaries. So there are new employees in this year's budget that weren't in last year's budget?
They were in a different, there are no new positions in
Or,
there.
oh, I mean yeah, that's what I mean, new
They're
positions.
just transfers from other departments.
Okay.
The building supervisor was in some other departments. And so now he's all in here. The sewer administrative assistant that used to be in here is now not in here. Now, the consulting services, we increased slightly because, well, we experienced the cost of interpreters for meetings, and to get an interpreter to a meeting is over $500, so that's why we increased consulting service line in admin.
Interpreters and translators?
Yep, for the hearing impaired.
Yes,
Oh, I see. For the hearing. What line is that again?
Consulting services was the last 5 digits of
Okay, I
45030.
found it, thank you.
So overall, your department is looking at an increase of about 120,000.
Correct.
I'm trying to figure out where that's coming from.
I'm getting there.
It's all over, good luck. Well, anytime they do restructure, which seems like they try to do every year, it's hard to follow along. There's always something.
Well,
that
it seems
gets
like
moved
every year I've been
from-
on the budgets, there's been a position moved here or there,
You're
or this has
absolutely
been
right. And-
changed, and then you
No,
can't
but
track
yes,
the.
it's every year that something gets distorted, that you can't follow it.
The town hall operating budget is up $115,930, or 5%. The increase represents transfers from other departments. Merit lines of about 19,000 were added to it from other departments. 75% of the building supervisor wages and benefits, about $36,000 is transferred there. Information technology, when we get there, accounts for 40,000 of the increase.
Is that a
And,
person? Or is that a personnel? Information technology is 40,000.
It's for computer user licenses mostly.
Is this in relation to the new software?
Yes,
That was not in the bid that we got?
it was.
Okay.
And this, I'll be getting to IT.
Let's finish and then we'll,
Yeah. And
you can
then,
pull out your big hammer if you want. Go
Okay.
ahead, Sue, go ahead. What page are you on right now?
any questions on admin economic development, page 9?
There's some lines that are really under spent. But then we go ahead and we budget them again for the same amount of money, legal being one. I understand what you're gonna say, well, legal this, legal that, but we have money there's always money in the budget they find for something else. I mean, last year we bought a dump truck out of the budget, so,
Not out of my legal line.
no.
What line, Pete, sorry, what line is that?
Legal
Legal
services.
services.
45020.
45,020.
We did not increase that, actually, it's gone down $300
Well, but you only spent $37.93 so far
so
this
far
year.
this year.
It's not the whole year.
Aren't we waiting for a bill, Sue, as far as, aren't we waiting for?
I just want to point out that when you see the planning and zoning legal line, it's overspent by 25,000.
Okay,
So-
but that's their line. I'm talking about your lines. I mean, so what we'll do is compensate them if we don't take the cuts where we don't use it.
And the year before, we spent 8,900. So we almost spent 9,000 in 2012 of the 12,000.
And if that money doesn't get spent, say we only spend $5,000 this year, and what happens to the other $7,000,
It goes into the general fund.
which is used to buy something next year with, giving us our money back. Okay, go ahead.
Yes?
Line 44300,
Employee development, did we already go over that one?
We did not.
Okay, I'm just noticing 2012, you spent $605, and year-to-date, you spent $149, and you're still budgeting, after the Board of Selectmen, $4,300. I just wondering what that's about.
Yes, that line is for employee development for all the staff that I mentioned earlier that are in this budget. One person was attending an MPA program, but could not find the time to get there because we've kept him quite busy here. And I haven't been able to get away from my conference, so that's why it's underspent.
Okay.
What's that normally cost?
The grad program?
Yeah, is there like a set amount that they're allocated a year?
No, it depends upon the requests that come in.
So there's no cap to it?
Well, I think they're capped by the time they have available to go. They do this all in their own time, so they're not being paid while they're in school.
Yeah.
Seeing no other questions, we'll move on to page 10, which is the town clerk's office. This budget is up 2.42%, 2.42% of $4,398. The wage and wage-related lines account for most of this, and postage is a slight increase based upon the new postal rates anticipated for next year. Any questions on the town clerks?
So what if just the benefits line is zeroed out?
Benefits are now all in the admin economic development office. Only because we have a lot of one-person offices, and because of HIPAA regulations, we have to bunch them together.
Remember
That
we did
was
that
done.
last year?
Yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say that, didn't we do that last year?
We did, yeah.
We did.
But because it's still history in 2012 on here, that's
Oh,
why it's showing
got
up
it.
there.
I've forgotten one. Thank you.
Any questions on 10? Page 12? I'm sorry. 11.
You don't want to do 11?
Yeah, let's do 11.
Okay. 11 is the elections budget, and again, the decrease is due to transferring the selectmen's stipends to admin, because really you would have seen an increase in this budget because this year we had one election, and next year we have 3.
On the first line, it goes from 4,000 to 13,000.
3 elections. So these are your temporary workers who work those elections.
3 elections. 3 elections.
The elected officials line is basically your supervisor checklist and your moderators now.
And the computers was, I'm sorry, did you say that?
The computers, we have to program the tabulators for the voting machines for 3 elections.
And it costs $2,000 every time we do it?
Yep.
More if it's a lengthy ballot.
Okay.
Yeah, look at this year, Elizabeth, we only had 1 election and we paid $2,900
Right.
program.
So what, we hire somebody to do the programming? Is that where
Yeah.
the cost actually comes from?
Yeah, LHS, the ones who print the ballots, also program the
Okay,
tabulators.
okay.
Page 12 is Finance Office. Remember at the beginning, I told you how some hours have been transferred? 180 hours of Finance Director will be charged directly to Sewer because of the support that he provides to the Sewer Commission. And then I also said that we added 52 hours for 3 of the finance hourly employees for the implementation of this software, just for the first 6 months. And then the OPEB actuarial report was completed in 2013, so that line was reduced. It was 5,000, I believe.
So,
I'm sorry, how many dollars does it equate to the 180 hours?
I'll have to get you that answer, Peter. I'll write that one down. I can look that up. I have a spreadsheet somewhere in here with that.
so the additional hours for the finance tax,
Yes.
the transition to the financial side, can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, we started the analysis and the conversion of data this year, and according to our personnel plan, we're only allowed to accrue 35 hours of comp time. So they have maxed out on that.
I thought part of what we paid for, though, was for the company to do the conversion.
They are, but they need the analysis, they need to know how we want to code things. It's pretty powerful software, and so we had to sit down in teams and work with them to develop what we wanted.
Okay, and that time had not been budgeted in when we
It was
initially...
much more time-consuming than we had assumed.
Okay, and then after, I guess my question is, after these 6 months are up and the conversion is done, it's
Back to 35 hours a week.
back to 35 hours a week, but then wouldn't it be less? Because you're saying they're doing their regular job, plus they're accruing an additional amount of
Well, now we're
comp
going to be paying
time.
them for the 2 hours a week.
Yeah, but then once the software, I mean, right now, they're working their regular job, and they're accruing additional time to do the transition. And now we're talking about paying them on top of that, for another 2 hours on top of that, correct?
Right. Because they've already maxed out their comp time.
Okay. All right. I'm getting too turned around with that. All right. So are we seeing any forecasting that the finance software is going to save us any time?
Oh, that's where you're going.
That's what I'm getting at. Once the software is enacted, are we going to see savings in how long it takes employees to do their jobs?
No.
Ask me in 6 months. We'll see efficiencies. We know we'll see efficiencies. What that translates to hours remains to be seen.
Okay.
We've got to get everyone trained on it. I mean, the training's just starting.
And we didn't budget for any of the training?
Well, they're doing that through this. They did the management analysis first, and then they do the training.
So everybody's being trained now
Yes.
in this existing, so this, what you're proposing here takes into account the additional training time as
Yes.
well?
We're only doing certain modules this year, and that we're going live with this week. And then next year, there will be more modules installed, and we'll go live next year with them.
So this is going to happen again next year?
Yes, for other modules.
So this is going to be a yearly, this isn't a one-time 6-month deal. It's going to be a yearly increase.
No,
No?
no, we should have them all installed by July 1st next year, and people all trained.
Okay.
And then we'll get another software program and start all over again.
Well, that one
That one won't be
lasted
good
13
enough
years.
either.
When we
Yeah.
had
Any more questions on page 13?
Well,
I'm sorry, now we're on page 13.
Oh, make up my mind.
I was looking at page 13, and we moved on. I flipped it over already.
tax collection, that's up $4,284 or 5.08%. And the wage-related lines are about 4,000 of that. And then there's an increase in postage and decreases in some other lines here.
Any questions on that page? Next page?
Page 14. Reval property. This is up $15,140 or 8.34%. And most of that is due to an increase in your legal line because we have to defend a Fairpoint lawsuit.
Well, it's $24,000, or, no, it's only 4,000, I'm sorry. I looked at the wrong number. And the Fairpoint lawsuit was on the polls, or
Taxing the polls, yes.
Taxing
The
the
court
polls.
told us we had to do that, so we did it. We thought it was all through the courts. Either was Verizon 1, Verizon 2, and Verizon 3, and the court said, you shall tax the polls. We taxed the polls, and then there was a lawsuit. Every town that taxed polls was sued. Yes. So we are trying to save money on that by consolidating with some other towns to hire the same attorney to defend it. So we're sharing that cost.
This was the state that told us to do this?
The courts,
The courts, rather.
as their decision was that they were taxable property and they needed to be taxed, and we taxed them.
Should send a bill to them.
yeah. Any other questions on 14?
Information and technology is up $39,396. And most of that increase, as you can see, is in computer software, which accounts for about $32,625 of that increase. As you know, 2014 is a transition year in finance software, so we have to pay the current software user license as well as a new software user license. And that should be a one-year thing only. In 2015, the old user licenses and support should go away.
Is that town-wide for everything in the town?
That's for the finance software.
Just
So
for the
whoever
finance,
uses
just for
finance
finance.
software, yes. Also in here, there is a one-time upgrade of the Vision software that we use for appraisal, from Oracle to SQL. No choice, if we're going to have support from them, we have to do this, and that's $6,500. Computer software line is the user licenses for all kinds of software in town. So you have the QED software user license in here. And next year, you'll see the replacement software user license in there, and the QED software user license should go away.
so what's the division on the computer software licenses between the new software and the old software? How much is that line going to reduce when we get rid of the old software altogether?
The old finance software was $6,500, so that will go away in 2015, the $6,500.
Okay.
And I don't know the difference between QED and IMC, but maybe the chief knows the difference between those two.
Right off the top of my head, I believe it's about 4,500.
Okay.
And then that 6,500 one-time upgrade from
Right.
Oracle to SQL.
Okay.
Is that will just appear in 2014.
Okay.
It's about 16,000 more. For the new licenses minus.
No, it's going to go down 16,000.
Right.
Well,
it's
I'm
gonna go
thinking,
down.
so I'm
Right.
cutting, so I'm thinking the 32 that it increased and cutting it in half. Would that be the level? I'm trying to think what the level will be next year.
Well, the net level next year will be 24.
That minus whatever those three added up to.
Yeah. Which is about
Plus
16.
adding, yeah.
But we pay for a license, we don't pay for by the half year, we pay for the full year, right? So
Right.
that is the full cost. So it would be 24,000 next year.
I can get you a list of all those.
Okay. You don't have to, actually. It's all
No?
right. No.
And then
Yep.
there's just regular increases in all the other user licenses that are in there.
Move on to page 16.
16 is planning and zoning. This is an increase of $6,144, or 2.8%.
What was the percentage? I'm sorry.
2.8.
2.8.
The employee development travel expense line was reduced based upon where his conference is next year. Legal line was only increased 2,500, even though it's over 20,000 overspent at this point in time. And the minute taker line was reduced to reflect the actual, so that was reduced 1,300 approximately.
You had a question, Brian?
Yeah. Why is the legal line in planning and zoning so high?
It seems in this town, no matter what decision our planning board or ZBA makes, they're going to be sued by one side or the other. We're just a very litigious society.
Looks like we got sued a lot last year.
We did. Also, the attorney's fees are going up, the hourly rate is going up. They were supposed to go up for this year, but he didn't give us advance notice, so he gave us advance notice for next year, so his rate is increasing.
And we have one attorney that represents
For
the town.
litigation, we have one attorney, and for labor issues, we have another attorney.
Any more questions on 16? I'm sorry.
Other general government on page 17 is a decrease of $976, or minus 4.54%. And there were reductions in the Historic District Commission, the Budget Committee, and the annual report account lines.
What does the Wellness Committee do?
Wellness Committee promotes employee health, which hopefully has the impact of giving us a better experience when they rate us for workers' comp or for health insurance. So they sponsor activities, they encourage people to run races and get healthy.
That's what happens.
The civic ceremonies line, that was created originally for the 250th, wasn't it? Wasn't
No,
that
it was added to for the 250th, though. It was substantially added to. It's always been budgeted at $2,000, and that's to buy the flags and the wreaths for the Memorial Day Parade.
Okay.
We put all the flags in the cemeteries.
Okay.
It's also for any kind of special recognition that if the selectmen call someone in to recognize them, and they have a cake or whatever that might come out of civic ceremonies.
Okay.
Do we expect some bills for historic district?
With a marker program, are they going forward with that marker program?
We're still working on that, and there's still plaques to go out, so I anticipate we probably would be spending that to
You
finish paying
only
up.
spent $117 so
Yeah,
far this
I
year.
know.
And you're not gonna spend any more than that this year?
Yes, we are,
You are.
we are, on the plaques that
Plaques
are
for,
going on different
Historic markers.
historic buildings and landmarks and stuff around town. And we possibly will be encumbering some of that. Tom Souza is the one that is doing most of the work, and we haven't been billed. So we will be spending the money.
Yeah, they
you
had a
spend it again
plan,
next year, to do more next year?
Yes.
yeah, they have a plan to do so many a year.
Okay.
The next one is building and health, and that's a decrease of $5,641, or minus 6.19%. And again, that's a transfer of 25% of that building supervisor that was brought into admin that I discussed earlier. We have added a new account line called Public Health and budgeted it at $3,200, and that is because we didn't have a line for any kind of public health emergency like spraying for mosquitoes or which we did last year. Luckily, the frost came early enough this year and we didn't have to do it. But there were, and to test the mosquitoes for Triple E and what's the other one? West Nile, thank you. I had a brain cramp. So, and we just had Tim Susi, Manchester Public Health Director, in to talk to the selectmen about how Manchester approaches this and for us to come up with a plan on how we want to do it. We don't have the testing ability, but we may want to ask Manchester if their tester wants to come over and trap and test our mosquitoes, at least at the public playground areas and athletic fields.
Where were these items budgeted for? Did you say that?
The time we did not have a specific line for it. I forget which line we took it out of, Lisa.
Okay. And you don't have actuals on it?
It was about $3,000 total, but we went in jointly with St. A's and the school district, and I think Lions Club for their field, and we sprayed all those fields that year. And everyone paid their fair share.
Any more questions?
Human Services, this is our General Assistance Department. For anyone who's new to local government, we are mandated to be the safety net for the poor. And any expenses we spend on the poor comes out of that last line in that budget called direct assistance. We are asking for $48,000 this year. Last year was $45,000. The year before was $40,000. As the federal and state programs become lower and lower, and there's less assistance to people, we find that the safety net is getting larger.
It's funny, to administer the program is almost half the cost.
Not really. That's like old holdover from the old days where we just take the employee and half their benefits go to welfare. That doesn't mean they spend half their time on welfare. You know, it might be more like 25% of the time on welfare, but you're right. It's budgeted at half of a person. The other half is in finance. It's our town accountant who also provides general assistance.
Any other questions? Now's the time to ask Sue.
I can go on to our CIP items that we have. We only have 2 CIP items that have survived.
Okay, which page are they on?
CIP. Probably towards the end here. $30. The first one is the Town Hall ADA lift. This would be to convert one of our front staircases to a fully enclosed self-serve vertical elevator for handicap accessibility and to improve safety for the users. Our current ADA lift is 4 generations old, requires staff to operate, and has a weight restriction which is insufficient with the new electric wheelchairs that weigh quite a bit. The estimate that we've received, it's not an RFP, and before you conclude, I'm hoping we can go out for an RFP to get a more specific cost, but the estimate we were given was $40,000. The second item that we have is for IT purposes, it's the server virtualization for the police department, and that's budgeted at $75,000. This project would allow us to create 10 virtual servers on 2 physical servers, improving disaster recovery and redundancy, as well as providing greater space and energy efficiency. Disaster recovery would be reduced from weeks to minutes. Our current system, disaster recovery, requires time to order parts, configure and install them in lieu of simple image restoration. Additionally, disaster recovery may be tested on this virtualized system, but not on our current system, where we assume that the daily backup is not corrupted. Virtualization will isolate applications and improve efficiencies with our ability to monitor and maintain the machines through a single interface. Having successfully virtualized the servers at Town Hall in 2010, we feel it's an important step to safeguard the police department equipment for 24/7 availability and uptime. And that was written by our IT director.
These 2 items are not part of the Board of Selectmen's budget, right?
Yes, it is.
It is?
Yeah, they say 0 on ours.
Oh, that's because they're those special articles that will be funded through the use of fund balance.
These 2, both?
Yes.
Fund balance, okay.
Yes, and you'll find that on page 2 of your blue sheets under special and separate articles.
It's not really in the BOS budget then.
It's a separate article. It originated in CIP. It was approved in the CIP process by the planning board, and
Taken out by the.
now it's been taken out and funded with use of fund balance as a separate article.
So everything on page 2 here is,
The ones between the pink shaded area are all funded. So
That's-
the,
that's all proposed fund balance use?
yes,
Where are
and
you
grants.
at, page 2?
Yeah.
Page 2, between the 2 pink shaded areas.
Thanks, Sue.
The last one, the SCBA, that's 90% grant funding, 10% fund balance.
So does this represent 10%?
No, that's the full, we have to gross appropriate. So the
Okay, so it'd
article
be
will
30.
be worded, the total appropriation is 300,000, 270,000 to come from the grant, and 30,000 from
30 out of
fund
fund
balance.
balance, okay.
Is that on page 30 as well?
No, that's on page 2.
But that's the only, because some of these things are on both places.
No, SCBA was a late arrival,
Okay.
so it didn't go into the CIP process.
I have no idea. What does SCBA stand for?
Oh, their breathing apparatus. And I'm sure Selectman Lemay can.
Self-contained breathing apparatus.
Thank you, Mark.
You used to replace a few of those at a time. Why don't we replace them all?
Replace them all.
Yeah, for interoperability.
Pardon me?
For interoperability. And this is a regional grant, so this is just our portion of that grant. But even the other towns that provide us mutual aid will have interoperability with them.
I watched the whole meeting.
So what about the library? The library paint and repair, the detention pond, and the Pleasant Street Bridge sidewalk?
Yes,
Where are
those
you
are all
with-
fund balance. And I'm sure the
Page 2.
library director will talk to you about that project.
Okay,
So I'm just addressing the ones that
Okay.
originated from admin.
got it.
But they'll be in special articles.
Yes.
Any other questions?
Is the ADA elevator the same as the ADA lift?
Yes,
Same thing?
yes.
Okay, and is this required by law that you need to replace this? Is it not functioning up to the level that it needs to be?
Right, it's not functioning. There are some people that can't use it right now, so we have to service them in the lobby area.
If you put somebody with an electric chair on it, and if you have a person of substantial weight, the weight capacity for that lift is over, and which causes it not to work. You've exceeded the lifting capacity of that elevator. A, it sometimes won't go up. B, sometimes it'll come down a little faster than normal.
It's,
So the new one
it's
is-
breaking more often than not, and parts are not always available.
And you're basically, you're semi-secured, you're not fully secured like
Right.
the new ones are.
This
You're riding-
elevator will be much
You're riding the
more-
roller coaster down around the
Yeah,
corner.
if you're in a wheelchair,
Yeah,
dangerous.
yes,
Was that built to have a wheelchair on it?
yes.
It was the standard, probably the roller wheelchairs,
Right.
not the new electric ones they have.
Right.
That was done way back in early
Right,
nineties.
yeah.
I
Time ago.
Probably was made just for the wheelchair.
think it was 93, 94.
Any other questions?
So since most of the 2% pay increase comes, most of those non-union employees are here in town hall,
Every
correct?
department, library, parks and rec.
Okay.
Here, then you, and even in your
Then
unionized
this is more
departments
of
have
a
them.
general question then. How much of this $116,000 increase is, how much of that is represented by the pay increase with associated benefit increases?
I can get an answer to that specific question, but 1% for all non-union employees with the associated benefit lines equals 19,000,
Okay,
okay?
okay.
That's for all non-union with all departments. If you want it broken out, I can do that.
No, that would probably be good enough. No, actually, I would like it broken
Broken out,
Thank you.
okay.
Okay. And then what if we did a zero increase for admin? What would go? What would change?
What would change? Can I transfer everything out that's been transferred in? Send it back to its original departments, or?
Well, what would you do? What would you do if it was a zero increase?
Well, that's the first thing I would do.
But
I'm not kidding. I mean.
some of this is shifting within your own department.
Some is and some isn't.
Okay. Would that make up the 120,000?
No, that would make up about 36 and 20, 56,000 of it.
So almost half.
Yeah.
About half of it. Okay. What do you do for the other half?
I'd have to take a look at that. I'm not prepared to answer that question
Okay.
tonight.
Anything else? Thank you, Sue.
You're welcome, and remember, we will be back in touch with you before you conclude on the pink highlighted lines,
Yes.
okay?
Next
Thank
up
you.
is the chief. Anybody need to take a 5-minute break? We can do that.
I don't want to be here till midnight. Let's keep going.
Oh, come on, it can take that long. Okay, we're back on. Next on the agenda is the police department presentation. Welcome, Chief.
Welcome, thank you. Appreciate it, and thank you all for coming. Before you have handed out my presentation that was initially given to the Board of Selectmen, it has since been modified with their numbers on that. What I did with the board is, with the selectmen, is I went down and went through the increases and addressed those, and I can do the same here. Everyone seems to be willing to accept the decreases readily, without question, but again, before I start, I have a grave concern as the chief of police. And my concern is the amount of activity we're seeing, the amount of crime we're seeing, and the amount of drug abuse in this town. It's no longer the marijuana and the kids smoking it out behind the Shell station or something like that. We've got serious opiate problems in this town. I'll say it again. We have serious opiate problems in this town. I drove up North Mass the other day and I can pick out 7 houses that have heroin addicts living in them. That's one part of town, one street. It is a concern of mine. Reflected of that is the large number of break-ins, car thefts, and burglaries that we've experienced over this past year. We are well above 200% and 300% increases on all of those. I believe it's a 700% increase in armed robberies, where people walk into a store, stick a gun in someone's face, and take the money. They're not only doing that, they're now inviting the customers coming through the door. Usually they used to keep them out. They let them in so they can rob them too. It's bad. I am asking, I'd asked the Board of Selectmen, and I'll ask you folks, I need another officer. It's an officer safety issue. It's a coverage issue. It's a work issue. It's a workload issue. The number I presented to the Board of Selectmen was for an 8-month position. At this point, I would take a 6-month position or a 3-month position. I have numbers for those if that arises. We go 24/7, and if you look at our numbers, our motor vehicle enforcement, which was always high, is low, very low, because we're spending time investigating the burglaries, the robberies, the thefts, the car thefts. Those are the things we're dealing with, the high-level crimes versus the lower-level crimes. That's an issue for us.
Chief, in the past, there's been grants available at Cops for War, things like that. Is there anything out there now?
There are not. So I'll go through and I'll start with the police operations budget. I've got a 5% decrease across the regular wages, but I will qualify that there is the part-time wages are in there for $90,000, so that's almost a wash as far as the way the budget is structured. Or excuse me, these computer lines are now being moved around, so it's the same but different, if you will. We have a 4% increase in retirement. Again, that's downshifting that we've seen. The increases in the past, it's ongoing. 9% retirement for police. I'd like to address that. The 9% retirement for police, group 2, if you will. It's a big number. But what a lot of people don't realize is that the same number is being passed on to the employees as well. The employees are contributing at a higher rate as well. So it's not just a 9% going to the town. The employees are contributing out of their paycheck additional monies as well. There's a 17% increase in benefits. 117% increase in bullet-resistant vests. We have a grant program that we try to get 50% reimbursement, and we have been very successful at it. However, after the bulletproof vest is 5 years. Last year, we had a drop in the number of bulletproof vests we needed. It comes in cycles. This year, we have more bulletproof vests that we need that are over 5 years old. That's why the increase. It's not going to be that number each year. It's going to be adjusted as how many we need. So,
How many vests is that, just out of curiosity?
I believe they're about 445 or 454 a vest. So I can pull
That's
up
okay,
the
no, that's
number if
okay,
you
that's
want.
fine, I was just, if you knew off the top of your head, that would be fine with me. No big deal.
HVAC maintenance and supplies, line 53490. There's a 100% increase. We went from $2,000 to $4,000 on that. And I'll discuss that when we hit CIP. We had replacement for 3 units, rooftop units of HVAC units at the PD. We got a second opinion. People that work on them as their profession said we'd rather work on these. They're easy to repair. They're more efficient. They're what we know, and we can repair the condenser or the boards if we need to, versus having to buy and replace 3 new units. So what we've done is budgeted for $2,000 to replace a condenser or a board in one of those 3 units each. That's not 3 boards and 3 condensers. That's a board or condenser in one of the 3.
You budgeted 2,000, the selectmen bumped it to 4.
Right, so that was the additional maintenance. We have contracts that we maintain those already, those HVAC units, preventive maintenance. These are if they break down, so that we can repair them. There were some identified issues with at least one of the condensers already that would probably need to be replaced. Photographic supplies and expenses. Again, these 2 lines were meshed. It's a zero balance, or a zero increase, if you would. When the 2 supplies are mixed together. When the 2 lines, excuse me, are put together. Intoxilizer expenses, 46030, a 90% increase. We went from $1,050 to $2,000. When we have serious bodily injuries, we have to bring people to the hospital. Under state law, we have to have them blood tested. We have to do it within an hour of each other. So an hour when we get there and an hour later, so that you can track where their blood's going, whether it's going up or it's coming down. That's what the courts require. That's what the AG requires. Unfortunately, the hospital also requires payment when we go there, usually about $150 per draw. Where we're mandating that draw, we're responsible for it. If we have 2 serious head-on collisions, or 2 cars, we're drawing, that's 4 draws for just 1 accident. So we're seeing an increase in that. In addition to that line, we also have the breath tubes on the intoxilizer, repairs to the intoxilizer, and capture tubes, capture bags, and breath pieces, mouthpieces. So it's a whole supplies, but the main driving force on that is the blood test at the hospital.
Real quick on the photographic supplies.
Yes.
So we're about $1,000 off each year.
I'm sorry?
So for 2012, it looks like you spent about $450. You had budgeted $16. This year you spent about $600.
I can tell you that these numbers are not accurate because we've already spent more within the last 2 weeks on some of these replacement cameras, et cetera. So I can get those numbers. I can get them updated for you.
Same thing with first aid expenses. It looks like those were underpaid, underspent rather.
Correct. We try to manage these. The difficulty is the AED pads. The AED pads are about $100 to $200, $100 to $120 a piece for a set of 2. In addition to that, we need infant or child Pats. How many am I going to do this month? How many am I gonna do this week? How many this year? I don't know. But I damn well wanna have them when I need them. And that's the first aid supply line. And in addition to that, we get bandages, minor, first response. We don't do blood cuffs, blood pressure cuffs, or anything like that. It's basic first response, first aid supplies that we use.
A question about employee development.
Yes.
44300. 17,000, 2012 you spent. Year to date about 17,000. Now you're up to 24,000. So $7,000 difference there.
And the board, I believe, cut $4,000 or $5,000.
So you originally had 28,000.
And the board cut money out.
Right, to 24,000.
Correct. Currently, I have 2 employees enrolled in a bachelor's degree program and 2 in master's degree programs. Those came online later this year, mid-year, June. Budget for that. In addition to that, there have been conferences that I'm leaving, I'm not going to. Okay, so there are adjustments made that way. That's one of those lines that if you can save in it, you'll save in it. But I do have concerns about, continuing the education of my employees.
Excuse me, Chief, is anything that ties the employee to us on the if we're paying for the continuous?
Absolutely. We have education agreements that you're required to stay so many years after the completion of your degree. If not, there's a set amount and it's, I guess, it goes for how long you stay after that, and it worked out. And we've collected, I believe, off of 2 employees in the past, so.
I have one other question. The crime lab expenses have not gone up, even though there are more crimes to be investigated, it sounds like?
Correct. Crime lab expenses, depending on what you're doing. Fingerprint dust. If you watch TV, it's thrown everywhere and there's all kinds of dust, and that's not the way we do dusting. We do dusting in very located areas, very scientific areas of where they're going to touch, where they would have touched, and develop those prints using a small amount of dust. So to say that we need barrels of dust to do fingerprinting, that's not a fair assumption. We need containers. And that containers, I can do probably 100 crime scenes with 1 container to supply X amount of cruisers and more to have that on hand. We have dental stone. I have a relative that's a dentist. I get my dental stone at cost. Next year, you will not get your dental stone at cost.
You moving out of town?
But that's how we cut, okay? I need, I think it's 20 pounds of dental stone that does castings for tire impressions, footprints, etc. I bring a box back from the uncle, and here we go. And if you start talking about dental stone, it can be fairly expensive.
Well, that's my question, though. The line hasn't gone up.
Right, and we've been spending within it. I think we're okay.
Okay.
About clothing and uniform, 44150.
Okay.
You have spent 15,000. 2012 it was about 85.
There are some payments that have not come in yet on this, I can tell you. With the winter uniforms, the boots, we just got some uniforms for the crossing guards, raincoats, cold weather gear, shoes, gloves. In addition to that, there's some uniforms for the dispatchers that I've included out of that line for this year.
So you spent around 20 this year?
I'm going to come very close to that this year. 33% increase in furniture and fixtures, which is $500. We're trying to maintain the furniture that we have and replace the parts as they go. So it's not a large expenditure, but again, there are chairs that are being used 24/7. There are patrol stations, things of that sort that need to be replaced, wear and tear. $500 and $1,500 is what we're trying to work within.
You haven't spent anything this year. Last year, you only spent a third of it.
Yes.
All of a sudden, they're gonna wear out this year, or?
I have 3 chairs in my patrol station right now, that no one sits in because they'll fall out of it. It's one of those that we don't want people in the station staying there. We want them out on the road. However, if I can say, okay, I need to save some money here and there, that's where I'm gonna save it at. Okay?
Okay, but I think I think that brings up the question is last year we left in the budget $1,500 because obviously you needed some furniture last year.
Mm-hmm.
You didn't spend any of it.
Correct.
Or this year, actually. You haven't spent any of it. You used it for something else? Is that what you said?
If I can save in that area, I will save in that area. I didn't use it for anything else.
But you just said you have a broken chair. Why wouldn't you use it?
Why wouldn't I use it?
I'm just trying to find out.
If there's an overage, I will not overspend my budget, period.
Okay.
There are lines that I am going to be over on. That's where I can put the wiggle room on some of these little lines. So, again, is that can I operate with 2 chairs versus 3 chairs? I do. Should I be operating, someone falls out of it and gets hurt? Probably not.
I understand what you're saying, but last year, the budget committee said, probably on your recommendation, we need $1,500. Probably had more than that in there, and the budget committee made it $1,500 to replace some furniture. We gave you the money, you're telling us you have a broken chair, or you need some furniture, but you said you used that money for some wiggle room because you overexpended someplace else.
Mm-hmm.
So now you're asking for $2,000 this year for the same thing that should have been replaced. We gave you $1,500 for last year. You see where I'm getting at?
Yep.
All right.
Advertising, we've asked for a $100 increase from $200 to $300. This number is $61.43 currently expended that I have in my sheet here is not correct. We found out the other day that I'm responsible if we have highway safety. It comes out of my line to advertise a public hearing. So, again, that's one of the functions that I don't have a lot of control over, but we still are required to advertise. We've tried to get away from advertising for positions in the newspapers, although we do have to do some public advertising. We have tended to go towards the internet to give us a wider variety of candidate pool, et cetera. So we're trying to work within the law, but also, I guess, conserve the money we spend on advertising. And 12% increase in water. The crime prevention programs and crime prevention equipment, those 2 lines have been combined, so you'll see it's the same amount that we've had over the last several years. This includes our DARE supplies, the glow sticks we hand out during Halloween, a small portion of that. They do a lot of donations with that as well. Officer-friendly programs, et cetera. Fleet maintenance. It went up, it's 29%, $2,000. We had asked for 3 cruisers this year. We got 2. We have seen our cost to maintain our fleet increase. I believe it's one of the lines we've overexpended this year, as far as fleet maintenance. With keeping our cars longer and longer as we have over the last 3 years now, it's starting to catch up. And maintenance supplies, 15% increase, from 2,500 to 2,875.
Chief, that fleet maintenance line, the Board of Selectmen brought that up 2,000?
Yes, they brought that up 2,000 because of the cut of the cruiser.
Okay.
Should I move to communications?
Okay.
Up.
I had a question about the equipment.
Okay.
It's just zero out the past year's budgeted at 25 and then 27
Which equipment are we talking about?
I think it's
Special equipment?
53,410.
Yeah, 53,410. It's just equipment.
Special,
Yes.
You haven't spent any money the last 2 years, and you're putting in 2,500 again.
Mm-hmm.
What's it for?
Anyone remember Cottage Street about 7 years ago? Cottage Street, an officer went to the house to do a welfare check. And on the front seat of that house, or on that front seat of the car in the driveway, was a hand grenade. And there was a note on the door that said, "Don't come in." Okay, so far it doesn't cost any money. But then the SWAT team shows up. And I'm not going to discuss specifics on how SWAT teams work, but they break windows, they bust down doors, and the gentleman was deceased. We can't just pick up and walk away from that house with no windows and no doors. We have to repair it. That's the type of special equipment that comes out of this line.
Okay, but that's not, special equipment in your write-up here, in your packet.
That's an example.
Okay, but that's, I don't think that's what Shay's talking about. I
Okay.
think he's talking about equipment, it's a line just called equipment. It's line 53410, and it has been budgeted at $2,500, but you haven't spent it for, it looks like last year you didn't, it's 0, and this year it's 0. I don't think it's special equipment, that's a different line.
well, it looks like it's a line with special equipment.
No, it's the same line.
It's the same line.
It's just,
Line-
I was
It's a
just,
different
yeah.
number, special equipment in your packet is 54535.
That's the old number.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's the same, we're talking about the same thing?
It's the same line.
54535
number?
is special equipment,
Yeah, see,
which
there's
is
an old
now
number and a new number.
54410.
I apologize if I didn't.
No, that's fine. I just want to make sure we're all talking about the same thing.
How about animal services, 52320? Haven't spent much.
No. We charge dog owners if we take a dog in. Take a dog in for a dog bite, we have to quarantine them. We have a sick animal. Okay, if we can't dispatch it or deal with it effectively, we have to bring it to a vet. We will try to recoup those costs. We make every attempt. We charge the owner, the keeper, the harborer, whoever we can find. The question is if we can find. If we can't find them, we are on the hook for that. On the feeding, the care, everything else of those animals. So, do we do a good job trying to track down the owners? Absolutely. Because it comes back to the taxpayer if we don't find the owners.
If you went back more years, how have you spent up to that 32?
Up to that, probably not up to that.
Where do you think the level would, I mean?
I'd have to get back.
I know it's not that huge of an amount, but
I would have to get back to you. Again, I've seen years that we've had 4 and 5 dogs, 2 dogs to a pen, okay? This year, we've had a very, very light year with dogs.
Do we have a dog officer?
Currently, no, but I have a position open for it that is
That's on-call type
it's a
of thing.
per diem, it's $25 a quote-unquote pickup, so.
Danny's not doing it anymore?
And in addition to that, when you have someone that does pick up dogs, we're required to give them rabies shots, et cetera, to get them the vaccinations for those, to fulfill that position.
Okay, that was page 6. So now we're on page 7, employee, where are we at? Emergency management?
Emergency management, 14% decrease overall in this budget. They have moved the cell phone, or one of the cell phones, from emergency management to the admin line. That's a reduction of $600. Other than that, everything stays the same. These, again, this is one of these that we try not to use these lines. But when we use them, we overexpend them, and then they're sent back from emergency management, we get reimbursed for them. I believe last year we had $60,000 or $80,000 we were reimbursed from emergency management. Overall, the budget's for $2,400.
Any questions on emergency management? We'll go to police department communications.
Just curious, we still use
Go ahead.
pagers?
I have one.
We use one pager.
One pager for the emergency management director. I'll give you an example. I am going hunting next week.
Yeah.
I will tell you, thank you, my cell phone does not work there.
Yeah.
My pager does.
Yeah.
So if I need to get somewhere, I can get somewhere and call.
Just curiosity, the mobile command center, what's happening with that? That went through last year, didn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Did you have it yet? I didn't see it.
It's around.
It pulled in to Custom Creations Monday.
Yeah.
That's where it's at now?
Box, and so it's there. Now it's gotta be upfitted, I guess is the word that they're.
That's on Viney Street? That's there in the corner there? So
So it
it's being
doesn't-
built.
So they do all the up, they get the shell and they just build everything right there, huh?
And we had a meeting with them, I believe it was this morning, as far as what's going in there, how it's going in. We've already met before that, but now that it's there, hands-on, they're starting in
A month or so, a month or two?
mid to late January.
Yeah. Okay. Just curious.
No, that's-
Okay, communications?
Okay. Communication, we had a 2% reduction in regular wages. But with that, there's the part-time number is pulled out of the wages of 18,000 and put in there. Again, that's a separation of the lines. We have a 2% FICA, retirement 12%. Clothing and benefits, 21%. Clothing and uniforms, 475%. I mentioned that in my current budget in police operations, I'm taking some money out of it to get a basic uniform issue for my dispatchers. My idea is to get 2 pairs of pants and 3 shirts. Some of them work 5 days in a row. so that they can have that. And my goal is to have everyone in the same uniform, so that then when they meet and greet people at the window, they look professional, they're identified as who they are, what they do. And again, there's some uniformity there. A 7% increase in telecommunications. For the most part, that's my phone lines. And then 20% in facility repairs. That's to take care of the antennas up on the summit, the building at the summit. We seem to have more rodents in there than chicken farms have rodents. So, those are some issues that we're ongoing, trying to keep that place up to speed. Again, it's 20% increase, but it's only $100 extra.
Chief, I'd like to look at the equipment maintenance.
Okay.
Line 53,420.
Yep.
2012, we budgeted 15,000. You spent 95,39. Last year, we budgeted 22,400. We're at 6,206 year to date. And then we're again budgeting at 17,400. Is there something that's going to hit that line in the next 6 weeks that's going to spike it?
There will be a $7,000 expenditure for an air conditioning unit for the comm room. And when I say comm room, it's a room that's off of that runs the computers and all the hardware. I had my IT people in there the other day, and they're afraid that, lack of a better word, things are going to melt because it gets so hot in there.
Okay, that brings me up to 13,200 for this year. You budgeted 22,400, but the selectmen cut it to 17,400. Is there something else we're doing?
Not that I recall right off the top of my head, no.
Any questions on page 8 for the chief? I'm sure you want to go to the CIP, right?
CIP is 2 cruisers.
That's it?
That's it. I mean, I've got things further on out, but it's the 2 cruisers this year.
Where are they?
30.
30.
30.
That's under machine equipment and vehicles.
Got it.
Was this only 31,000 or
36.
36,000?
And you went with the SUV?
The Ford Interceptor SUVs, yes.
2 of them?
Yeah. Any questions for the chief? Anything else?
I had one line to go back to.
Sure. What page you on?
6. Excuse me if you already went over this, but I'll catch it. It's telecommunications 503 or 50310.
Okay.
Budgeted 10.5, spent 72. Prior year spent 77.
It's the phone lines. If we get charged for out-of-state calls, et cetera, coming in, and depending on our phone usage, and that's the issue. I mean, it is what it is.
That's worst case scenario.
Worst case scenario.
So overall, because the revolving fund is kicked in this year, right, so special duty wages are out.
Correct.
So you're actually looking at an overall increase in operating expenses of about $165,000.
combined with everything.
Yeah. Emergency management,
Thereabouts,
communications,
yes.
somewhere in that
I got
neighborhood.
32,000 communications, 130 police.
I'm just trying to figure out where it's all coming from. I mean, I see a big chunk of it on the benefits line. There's like 55,000. But I'm trying to figure out where the rest of it's going. I mean, it just seems to be little bits
Little bits here and
here and there.
Again, it's running lean, and I'm not sure how we get a whole lot leaner.
Where's the extra officer you're requesting?
This one is not, the extra officer is not in this budget. The extra
Right.
officer or the replacement officer. We had 30 officers in 2008. I'm down to 29. So,
The Board of Selectmen removed that, right?
correct.
Can we hear a little bit about that decision, Mark?
Took it out, plain and simple. I mean, we had a debate to keep it. The debate came down to, nope. And the chief explained all of the crime statistics. If you look at the front of the handout the chief has, I mean, all the numbers are there, legitimately they're there. Board felt, nope, they can do with what they got, and that was it. Again, that was, I think, a 3-2 vote.
And as I look at it, it was presented as of April 1st. I need the body, and I am willing to compromise, whether it's July 1st or October 1st. And I'll just get them in the academy further on down the line. It's an officer safety issue. It's disturbing to me.
How long is the academy?
Academy is 14 weeks now.
14 weeks now.
And what kind of numbers are you talking about? So if you started, like, because we don't, is that even in here, the officer that was taken out?
No, I had finance run the numbers today. For an additional officer, from July 1st, the cost with benefits and wages would be $29,612. From October 1st, it would be $14,237. That includes wages and benefits.
What would the numbers be for 2014 when he's full-time?
2015.
2015?
I mean, 2015, I'm sorry. Roughly. What is it,
Well,
Coleman cost?
Could be double.
60.
Should be about 60,000.
Yeah, about 60.
About 60.
Yeah.
And again,
29.
it would be even higher than that. It'd probably be 65
Yeah.
because of, but I would say 65, not to, steer anyone wrong or try to blindside anybody.
Okay, thanks, Chief.
Did you have an April 1st? Was that another one?
April 1st,
Yeah.
that was, it's like 60, 3, 4, 50, 55.
That, the new software that, is it
IMC?
That's up and running now, you using that?
No.
or-
We were supposed to go live November 4th. There was a data conversion delay. We're trained, we're ready to go. Data conversion isn't where we need it. And when we go live, we have to have that data conversion ready. So we have pushed this back to December 5th as our go live date, and we should be up by December 5th.
Is there, at this point, right, I mean, you haven't been using it, but is there any other towns that have shown any interest in maybe jumping on with us?
We're not up to that yet because we have worked very closely with the fire departments that we currently have to make sure that we have what the fire departments need. So if we don't have police departments, we definitely have in place as we speak the software necessary to attract other fire departments. So we're starting, we're in that direction, and I think we have a very firm footing in that direction. Do I have any buyers yet? Do I have anyone saying, we want you? No, I don't have that yet, but that's our goal.
Heading in the right direction anyway.
Anything else? Hey, Chief, anything comes up, we'll sure let you know.
All right, thank you.
We appreciate it, thank you.
Don't call my cell phone next week.
We'll page you.
Fall out of a tree stand.
Budget review tonight, Chief. Budget review,
Uh-huh.
He doesn't look worried.
Hey, Mr. Chair.
Yes, sir.
Make a request.
Go ahead.
It would be cool when we get these things, especially electronically in Excel, if we could get to the default numbers. I just noticed that's missing here. We usually have them. And it's not on these things.
I don't think they can do the default numbers until they have another number.
So they have,
Which-
oh,
They're working on that number
I
now.
gotcha, okay. Yeah.
It'd be nice if they were color coded and they give us a percentage of increase or decrease. It would be easier to scroll through them, you know? Thumbs up, thumbs down.
Now, I don't know if any of you had a chance to take a look at the school budget, which will be covered, start tomorrow night. It would sure be handy if you could put that in a binder, because that is two-sided, designed to work in a binder.
Did we get that electronically?
No,
No, I don't believe so, I don't
no,
think.
we didn't.
Did we?
No.
If I
I mean, we
pass
got
it
the
on?
paper one, but
The paper,
I
but
don't
it's
remember
not
seeing it
electronic.
electronic.
But we have gotten the school budget electronic in the past.
Right, but we
Yes.
didn't this
I
year.
don't remember seeing it, I'll take a look again and see if I have it, but I don't remember seeing,
I haven't seen it electronically.
yeah, okay.
And who are we hearing from? And just
Tomorrow night
Mr. Balke?
is,
Brian, for the district, and then the MBMS for GHS.
they had their option, which I gave Ray, whoever was convenient for tomorrow night. And then the following week, we'll do the other large operation in the one of the, like,
And we're in the other room, too.
so what I set up with Ray was tomorrow night was gonna be district presentation and the high school, or Mountain View. And he was gonna see whoever was available, and that's the one we would cover. And then next week, we'll cover the other large one, whether it's the high school or Mountain View. And one of the smaller will cover Maple Ave, and then we're gonna do,
Please not Maple Lab next week.
Oh, because you're not going to be here.
I'm not gonna be here.
well, that's, I'll see if I can change it with
Yeah,
him.
yeah,
I mean, it's just a presentation, you should probably already had anyway, haven't you?
yeah, pretty much, yeah.
But, then we were gonna do the two small ones and go right into deliberations the following week. Just, stuff would take that long to do, Glen Lake and Bartlett. Then we can start working on it.
My notes say we're doing GHS tomorrow.
GHS?
Yep.
And we're next door? We're next door across the hall?
Yep.
Planning in here?
Probably. I'm just gonna take a look real quick and see if I don't think I saw Ray send me the school's budget.
I checked. If he did, you didn't send it to me or
I
anybody else.
usually
that I know.
just, as soon as I see it, send it along, so. Anything else? Any questions? Now, if you do, as you're studying stuff and you see something you have a question on, like for the chief or for Sue, let's maybe jot it down and we'll get it to them, and email them, and they'll email you back. Be as efficient as possible. All right, Brian made a motion,
Yep, I did.
seconded by Lee. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Meeting adjourned.